Okay, so now we're going to talk about, now that we've talked about ions, we've talked about atoms, all of these things about electrons, we're just going to build upon this concept even more, and we're going to talk about molecules, okay? And so these are our learning goals here, and I want to define a couple of terms first, okay? So here on your note sheets, it asks you first to define a bond, okay? And so a bond is when atoms or molecules physically associate. Okay, so for example, these are my reading glasses here, or the case that has my reading glasses inside of it. And so here's this. And here is my hand. Right now, my left hand. Right now, my left hand in my glasses case, they are not physically associated. They are not bonded. Now, watch them bond. Now, they're physically associated. They have formed a bond. So the same thing is happening with atoms or molecules. They're physically associating with one another. That's what a bond is. So a molecule is formed when two or more atoms bond. Okay? So atoms or molecules physically associating is a bond, and when two or more atoms come together, when two or more atoms bond, then it forms what's called a molecule. Okay? All right. So as we go through this, if it helps, we're going to be eventually filling out this chart right here. There are 4 different types of bonds. If you look here, there's ionic, covalent, and hydrogen, but covalent has 2 subtypes, nonpolar and polar. Okay, so really ionic, nonpolar covalent, polar covalent, and hydrogen. So let's talk about the first one, which is going to be ionic bonds. Okay, now part of this is going to look familiar. We're backing up for just a minute. Okay, so here we've got 2 atoms, sodium atom, chlorine atom. Here's sodium atom. This outer valence shell is not stable, so it is going to lose this electron, so let's exit out. Okay, so it's going to lose it, forming a sodium ion. Because it's lost an electron, that gives it a positive charge. You should go back to previous lectures and review them if this is not familiar. We've covered this. Okay, let's remind ourselves of chlorine. Here it's got 7 electrons in that outer shell. There's an empty spot for number 8. So, to be stable, it gains that electron, gives it an extra electron, gives it a negative charge. Okay, all of this is reviewed. There is nothing bonding yet. It is just unstable atoms that have gained or lost an electron to become stable, but that makes them charged. Now, here is where the bond happens. The bond happens because positively charged ions are attracted to negatively charged ions. It's just the rules. Positive likes negative. I think of it, if you've ever heard the phrase, that in dating sometimes opposites attract. Okay? So that is the case with ions. Ions, opposites attract. And so here we go, this positive and negative are attracted, and that causes them to physically come together and to form a bond because those charges are attracted to one another. Okay, so if we're filling out our chart, we'll go here to ionic. This subtype here, it doesn't apply. There's no subtype. So, Oh, I guess one other point that I want to point out here, looking at the chart, is that you could view this almost as if chloride steals this atom from sodium. Okay, sodium lost it, and chloride gained one. Well, where did it get it? I got it from somewhere. Electrons don't come out of thin air. Well, it stole it from sodium. Okay. So, if we're going to look over here, did we say anything about sharing electrons? No. Okay, so if so, is sharing equal? Well, there's no sharing. It doesn't apply. Not applicable. Do atoms steal electrons? Well, we just talked about that, and yes, they do. Okay. Now, it asks, let's come back to this idea of full charges or partial charges, and let's go to this next column. Are bonds formed by the attraction of charges? Well, we said positive and negative attract. So, yes, you bet. Okay, and then let's come back to this last column here in a minute. Okay, so we're not talking about sharing electrons, but yes, one atom steals an electron from somewhere, and that causes these atoms to be attracted and form a bond because of the charges. Okay, and I believe that is ionic bonds. It just shows you here that sodium chloride is actually formed by an ionic